Hey guys, so welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share 7 helpful tips that will guide you to doing your application for the Canada Express entry. Now, as most of you know, I am already here in Canada. It's been almost a month and it's okay so far. It's winter, as you know, and it was a struggle getting here with the whole COVID situation. But nevertheless, let me jump right into the 7 helpful tips that I used while I was preparing for the express entry.
Pretty little melanin. Oh girl, you don't know the joy you bring. Love.
Tip number 1, you want to ensure that you're making the right decision, right? What does that entail? Well, consider the fact that where you are in your home country, you'll be leaving your home country to reside in a new country. Consider the pros and cons of leaving and consider the job that you have. You know, when you come here, it's going to be difficult in the beginning to get a job. So it's very difficult to get a job when you have just arrived in Canada. So you have to think about job prospects, 1. 2, you have to think about your family. Is your family okay with it? If you're a single person, think about leaving your family behind. Like, what is that going to be like for you? Because some persons have expressed that it has been very lonely for them, and their family is so far from them that it's they probably going to depression, and we all know that's not a healthy state to be in. So you want to consider that as well, and you want to think long and hard. What are your future goals? What do you really want for yourself? And definitely research the area that you want to go into and see what that area has to offer. Connect with other persons and ask their experience to see if it's somewhere you would want to come to. I personally made that decision long ago. From university, this is where I wanted to be. And I think being in Japan prepared me, being so far away from home, it prepared me for eventualities that may come up, and whatever obstacles that I may face. Being in Japan made me stronger to face, whatever things I may face here. So that was a plus coming here, and I do keep those things in mind. But yes, it was a goal for me, and here I am. So think about your goals, think about the pros and cons, make sure that your pros outweigh the cons, and just make sure that you're making the best decision for you and your family, if so be the case. Okay. The next helpful tip, number 2, is to know your class. What do I mean by know your class? So there are 3 types of classes. There are the skilled worker program, the skills trade program, and the Canadian experience class program. So the skilled worker program, it refers to those individuals who have degrees, and for example, in positions like human resources or engineers or doctors, lawyers, teachers, those kind of jobs, accountants, etc. And where the skills trade program, of course, deals with individuals who are skilled in trade, right? I guess carpentry, and I guess maybe like truck drivers or persons who like mechanics and so forth. And then we have the Canadian experience class. Those refer to individuals who are already in Canada and who have worked, I think, probably 6 months to a year, something like that, and they are eligible to apply for their permanent residence. Okay, so tip number 3 is to know your score. So before you even start to gather any documents or anything like that, you want to know, am I eligible to apply for Canada Express Entry? Am I eligible to be a permanent resident there? And so the first thing that you want to do is to know your score. Now, before I did any of the English test or anything like that, I used the comprehensive ranking system. You can just Google that, the comprehensive ranking system, and once you enter that, it will ask you for information, for example, like your age, your level of education, the official languages proficiency, which would relate to the English test. Yeah, so those questions. For me, because I didn't do the English test as yet, I basically just put in some pretend answers. For example, I put in a pretend date or a tentative date at which a pretend date. I put in a pretend date to say, okay, this is when I did the exam, and I put in some pretend scores that I predicted I would have gotten from the English test. And so when I answered those questions, then when it was added up, I would see, you know, what my score was. And then I would probably check to see what was the last draw, to see what the score was, and to see how near I am or how far I am to being selected, and what would I need to do to improve. Now, most times what you need to improve is mostly the English test. Regarding the English test, I did the IELTS. Many persons, they have other types of English tests that they do, but the IELTS is one of the most popular ones. It was paper-based, not computer-based, and as I said, you know, a lot of persons may think it's a walkover, but it's actually not, or they think, oh, I speak English, there's no need to study or anything like that. But yes, you need to practice, practice, practice. While it is not a difficult test, it is very, how do I say, intense. It's very intense. So you want to ensure that you practice. For me, I practiced for the test for 2 months. So January, February, and then by March, I was able to do the test. Now, while practicing for the test, I ensured to practice my listening a lot, because I realized that the listening, it held a heavy weight in terms of scoring. So all of the scores, the listening, the reading, the writing, and the speaking, they're all marked out of 9. And so you want to ensure that you're getting nothing below 7. However, it's very tricky, because for the listening, you want to ensure that you don't get anything below 8. For the reading, nothing below 8 as well. For the writing, nothing below 7, because once you get a 6.5 or anything below 7, call it a day. You have to do over the test. And for the speaking, of course, nothing below 8. So of course, if you get higher scores or perfect scores, then that's even better. So you want to ensure that you practice a lot. So let's see, for the listening, what I did, I practiced for the listening about 5 times a day. I practiced the listening 5 times a day. Every time I got a break from work, I would practice the listening, and I would develop certain strategies to use in terms of, you know, answering the questions. So you want to do that so that when you go into the exam and you feel the pressure, you can handle it. All right. I used mostly YouTube videos to do the listening. So that's where I got my preparation from. All right. With regards to the reading, I also had some practice papers, and I practiced those as well. Found those online, and I also got some from friends. but they're all over. So you want to practice the reading. Now the reading, I think, comes in two parts. I think there's a general, is it general and a different, I'll put it somewhere here. There's a general and a different one. Oh, general and academic, right? General and academic. So the general is the one that you want to do, not the academic. The academic reading is so much more detailed, and it's so long, and it has some really heavy paragraphs that you need to sit through. So make sure that you're practicing for the general one. And when you're practicing, practice using the time limit that is allotted, because you want to ensure that you are answering the questions in a timely manner and in such a way that you have time to review what you wrote. That's very important, because you can miss something important there. For the writing aspect of it, I could have practiced some more with that, but yeah, maybe lazy, I guess, or I spend so much time with the listening and reading. I could have practiced some more time with that. With regards to speaking, that's okay as well. You have to follow the guidelines. If you follow the guidelines and practice, then they will be fine. They recommend that you record yourself at some while you're speaking or while you're explaining certain things, that you record yourself and see the time limit in which you answer the questions, because you don't want to give too much detailed response. So time yourself as well, or record yourself and check back just to see that you're not, you know, saying and, you know, having long pauses in your conversation. Okay, so for my scores, for the listening, I got an 8.5. For the reading, I got an 8. For the writing, I got a 7. And for the speaking, I got full score. I got a 9. So my overall score was 8.5 out of 9. So that helped me to get to my to boost my score, and my overall score was 476. And I believe at the time when the draw was being made, the draw was maybe 450 something thereabout. So me being in the 476, then that would mean that I would definitely be selected to, or be invited to, apply for the express entry. Now, step 4, you want to gather all the documents you need before applying. So for me, the documents that I gathered before applying were, one, from I applied in January of 2019. Yeah, so January 2019. So at the beginning of January, I got my transcripts from my school. I got my transcript and degrees, and I sent it off to WES, that's WES, to be assessed. I got my police record, and I reached out to my employers to get my references. You will definitely need those, not necessarily in the early stages, but you need that. And also, I set my date for the English test, from January, and I set it for March. And I sorted out my proof of funds. You want to organize that, because they're going to want to see a 6 months average balance of your proof of funds. Now, bear in mind, for example, in my case, for one of my accounts, I had like a 4-month average balance, so I wasn't able to provide a 6-month balance. So what I did was to write an LOE, it's a letter of explanation, explaining what was happening and why I could only provide, that the 4-month average balance. When you're selected, when you're invited then to send in all your documents, you want to ensure that if there's any discrepancy, or there's anything that you think that needs to be explained, you ensure to write a letter of explanation for each of those letters, for each of those sections, and upload it. Now, I will give further details about that in another video. That's the section where they give the 2-month period to upload all your documents. I'll speak about that in another video. So yes, you want to gather all these documents, so your transcript and degrees, and send it off to West, your police record, your references from your employers, and that might take some time because your employers, previous employers, may not respond to you in time. So you want to get that running, and you want to ensure that if they say no, then you know what other backup plans you have. Note briefly, for when you're creating the express entry profile, you don't necessarily need all these documents. However, the test information you will definitely need, because as I said before, that generates a score, and definitely you will need your information from your WES certificate. So you'll need those two information you need information from those two certificates to put into your express entry profile. So the number 5 tip is to create your express entry profile. Now, in creating your express entry profile, for me, what I did was to follow the trend to know when a draw was usually being made. I think it was usually like every 2 weeks or something like that. So what I did, I ensured to, for example, if I thought the draw was going to be next week, then I would create my express entry profile this week, so that by next week I know that, okay, there's a possibility that I would be in that draw. Okay, now once I got my score test, I was then able to create my express entry profile. And when you're filling out your express entry profile, it's important to note that you should document all the information that you input so that it's consistent and it remains true. For me, I screenshot everything I did because I wanted to have those information to look back on in the case or in the event that I needed these information. So bear that in mind. Document every single thing that you do, and remember all your passwords and stuff. Okay, so we're on now to tip number 6. Tip number 6, don't rush the process. And that process I mean by the express entry profile. When you are creating your express entry profile, you probably need at least 2 hours. Well, that was for me. I needed at least 2 hours because there's a lot of information to fill out, and you want to ensure that there are no mistakes, right? Now, important to note is that you will need to remember your travel and your living and education from at least 10 years prior. So, for example, now we're in 2021, January. So all the related information from January 2011, you will need to remember all that information to put in for your travel, your education, your living, etc. Now, because I had been traveling a lot, I created a spreadsheet. My friend recommended this to me, and so I took that advice and I created a spreadsheet. Now, the spreadsheet came in handy because I was then able to fill out that information very quickly when I got to that point forward. So for example, for my spreadsheet, I put in, for example, the dates, travel, for example, the date arrival, the date of departure, which country I visited, my purpose of travel. Yeah, so those information you will need. You can use a spreadsheet to correlate that information. Also, they want to know all of this information because when you get selected and you have to send in your documents, then if you resided in any one of these countries for 6 months or more, you would have to provide a police record. So they generate, once you provide the information, all of this, your information is sifted through, and then they decide, okay, if you need to provide a police record for certain countries. For example, they made a mistake with mine because while I studied online for my master's at a UK university, but I never went to the UK. And so they had asked me to provide police record for Japan, for Jamaica, and for the UK. Now, bearing in mind, you have to put something in that section. That is when you already are putting in your information for the permanent residence. It's not the EE profile I'm talking about. So they wanted me to provide 3 police records, right? And they had the different uploads. So definitely, if you don't put anything in that section, then it won't allow you to continue. So I had to write a letter of explanation explaining that I studied online, and so because I didn't travel to that country, I cannot provide a police record, and that was okay. So once you explain anything that you have doubts about, you can explain that when you get to that section. Now, regarding where you live, that of course, again, that's for the past 10 years. Then you can prepare that in advance as well. And you have to write dates in sequence. For example, say for example, I lived in Oshawa in January 2020 to December 31st, 2020. Then I would have to write, and if I moved, I would have to write January 1st, 2021 to whenever. So you have to record it in sequence, or else it won't let you move forward. So you want to bear that in mind. So prepare all these things beforehand so that when you get to that process, you can just fill in the information with ease. And last but not least, tip number 7. Sit back, relax, and wait to be selected. You know, preparation is key, and preparation meets success. So you want to ensure that you are doing your part and, you know, ensuring that you have the scores. Now, regarding the scores, it's very competitive right now. It's like the scores are getting higher and higher and higher. If you realize that, okay, it makes no sense or whatever, try something new, you know, explore other options. But once you have the score, you just sit back and relax and wait. And usually once there's a draw, then you will know within 24 hours if you have been selected to apply. So you creating your EE profile, express entry profile, it's not you applying, it's just you creating a profile, and then you will get selected to apply or be invited to apply. Okay, all right, so thank you guys for watching, and I hope this information was very helpful to you. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Please leave them in the comments below and let me know if you're in the process and how it's going for you so far. Just keep hope alive and do what you need to do and be positive. Okay, I had a long journey to get here, but I'm here, and you know, just keep the faith and stay hopeful. Okay, thank you guys for watching, and please stay tuned to my other videos. Thank you. Bye.